I'm Mike Peterson with Loft Labs. In this video, I'm going to go over 2 different ways to get a KubeConfig from your virtual cluster. Maybe you just created your first vCluster, or you've been using vCluster for a while now, but you're ready to move on to the next step of automating the distribution of KubeConfigs to your developers. Let's dive into the demo and see how this works. So we start out by creating a namespace. We're creating this namespace so we can create an Ingress resource. So we're kubectl create namespace demo vCluster. Then we kubectl create demo Ingress, and then here's what the Ingress looks like. So the Ingress has a couple of configuration options that you're going to take a look at. So first thing being SSL pass-through. So when you set up SSL pass-through, that means you need to have a configuration option within Nginx that enables this flag, and that's going to be under the spec container arguments. So you may need to update your Ingress controller if you're not doing that already. And you can see that we're using Ingress class name Nginx. So that's what this is going to actually show off, is everything is going to be Nginx for this. So we're going to set the host for demo vCluster.local. And then after that, what we're going to go ahead and do is we will create the actual vCluster. So here we're going to hop over to the vCluster CLI. vCluster create demo vCluster in the namespace demo vCluster. We're going to say connect equals false because we don't want to connect to it and do port forwarding. And then we're going to actually use a values file to configure it. Now within the values file, we have configured TLS SAN. So that's actually the host name that we're going to be using. We did the configuration server to set it as demo.vcluster.local as well. And then we also set the kube context so that we can actually get that information from the secret, which will be the second way that we actually get the kube config. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to get our first kube config, and we're going to use the vCluster CLI to do that. So vCluster connect demo vCluster update current equals false. So we're not going to update our current context. We're telling it what server to connect to. We're waiting for it to come up. And what that does is it'll download the kube config to our current directory. And then what we'll do is we'll kubectl with the kube config specified as the one we just downloaded and get namespaces. These are the namespaces that are within the virtual cluster. And then we'll run kubectl get namespaces just to show what's running on the base cluster. And then here's kubectx to show my current context, which is default. All right, so this is the second way to get the kube config. What we're going to do is we're going to get it from the secret that's actually on the host cluster itself. So kubectl get secret vc-demo-vcluster and the namespace demo vcluster. We're going to look within that template and we're going to pull the information from .data.config. We're going to pipe that to base64, and then we're going to output that data into our vc kubeconfig.yaml. And then with that, we're going to go ahead and run kubectl with that kube configuration and get namespaces. And here's the output showing that we're within the virtual cluster. It matches what we did earlier when we used the vCluster command. What you should be able to do with this is programmatically create a virtual cluster and then be able to pull the kube config and supply that to your developer. Thank you so much for watching this video. Consider liking and subscribing if you want to see more content like this. This content was actually created based on a survey that we did recently about vCluster. If you're interested in filling out that survey, we're running it until the end of January. It's in the description below. Also, documentation on how to configure this and how to get access to this is in the description below too. So thank you so much, and we should have more videos talking about different use cases and how to get started after day 1 of using vCluster.